You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, Life Chiropractic College West. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 415 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I am your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Sherry McAllister. And if you want to hear the message from the president of the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress, stay tuned. All right, welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. It's 415. I'm really excited. I might say that sometimes, but I'm really excited. I think that this is going to be a dynamic showcase of knowledge and commitment. And we're going to talk about a Chirothon in August that she has coming up that she would like you guys to think about attending at the National in Florida. And virtually, she has something going on too. And then we're going to talk about a Lou Sportelli interview that she wants to feature, have you guys learn more about this amazing profession of chiropractic. But before we get into this episode, I'm going to let you guys know the big why. Why do we do what we do over here at Chiro Hustle? Well, we protect freedom of speech. And as they like to say in quotation marks, now more than ever, well, it's been a thing for a long time with us. So that's important. We also protect the sacred trust. Please go to your favorite search engine and look for BJ Palmer Sacred Trust and find out a little bit more about this beautiful profession of chiropractic. And then we do support subluxation-based chiropractic. And we believe in universal intelligence and innate intelligence. And what that means is that when somebody gets adjusted, it connects man or woman, the physical, to man or woman, the spiritual. And with that being said, Dr. Sherry McAllister, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted.
You know, there's so much cool stuff that I want to talk to you about today. But I think a lot of times people have an idea of who we are. And I know a lot of people might have an idea of who you are after being 6 years as the president for the Foundation of Chiropractic Progress. But there might be people out there that could use a refresher. So your friends, your family, your colleagues, your practice members, everybody's going to be able to hear this new version and this story of Dr. Sherry McAllister. So let's tell people how you got into this profession and where you are today.
It starts as a teenager, and it actually is kind of interesting because we're heading to a Calgary Stampede, which just recently ended last Sunday, and we're heading to a two-stepping dance event. And I had on brand new cowboy boots, and I was really excited to take the lessons. What happened, unfortunately, was we were sitting just about to turn into the event, and we were at a stoplight. A man who had just picked his dog up from surgery, and he was wearing the big halo lampshade around his neck, was in the back of his seat. He was driving 60 miles an hour and did not realize that the light, in fact, had turned red, and it was a stop. So there was no braking. It was pure impact into, unfortunately, the vehicle. And immediately I felt my legs go numb, and I had felt the impact, not to any other place on my body, but just where the seatbelt had been, and I was pushed forward and then slammed back. So all of my pain was in my lower legs, immediate pain that just radiated down. And the paramedics came, they rushed me into the hospital, and unfortunately they had to cut off my cowboy boots. So those are the funny details that you never forget. And throughout the next couple weeks, it was delirium of whatever medication I was on. But I, at the time, was really excited about caring for little people, neonatals, and I wanted to be involved in pediatric oncology. That was really what I thought I was going to end up doing, was helping little children find whether it's a genetic imposition or cancer causing outside of just environmental impact. And I wanted to be part of that world. I wanted to find the cures for those little people. And at the time, I just was spending about 8 to 10 hours looking into a microscope. After that injury, I could spend maybe 30 minutes at most without a sharp splitting headache and back pain. And the next 3 to 6 months were blurs, just going from physician to physician, trying to figure out what was wrong, MRIs, CAT scans, neurological appointments, orthopedic surgeons. The drugs just kept getting layered on top of layered. And I'm a teenager. I'm 19 years old, and I'm trying to think, how am I going to spend the rest of my life? I was fatigued all the time. I was a very happy person. So for me to want to sleep more than 5 hours, which, 5 to 7 hours, I'm great. But this was like, I'd get home, I'd go to sleep. And I just thought, I don't know what I can do. And when I went back to the GP and I said, anything, you tell me anything I can do to get better. And I was with the physical therapist. If she said do 5 reps, I do 25 reps. Whatever you said, I will make it, and I'll make it so. I just want to get better. And I just felt exhausted. And one day in one of my classes, a colleague came over and slipped a chiropractor's card across the table. And I looked at it, and I really looked at him and I said, do you not think that if a chiropractor could help me, I would have already gotten the therapy for it? And he said, have you tried it? And I said, no. And he goes, and you have nothing to lose. And I sat there and I said, yeah, I guess you're right. And it was that day I made the appointment. I had headaches every single day for 6 months, every single day. Some ranged from just a minor annoyance to shutting you down, like it's time to lock up the room, put your head under a pillow, and just be there still. And it was that first night and first doctor who actually talked me through the x-rays. No one had ever touched me. No one had ever gone through x-rays. No one had ever explained anything that was wrong with me. I never got a real explanation. And I never had someone that touched me. And when he went through the x-rays and then he told me he was going to give me a chiropractic adjustment, I was extremely skeptical. Like, to the point where I'm thinking, I'm almost afraid this guy has to be way out there. But I stayed. And when I walked out of his office after an adjustment, the headache was gone. And my first thought was, that was a coincidence. That's all I thought. There's no way that this is going to hold up. And then the headache never came back. And now I could feel the back pain from the injury that I really sustained. And that's when I went back and I said, okay, the headache's gone. And he didn't even look surprised. And I was in shock. And I said, but I still have this back pain. He goes, well, that's secondary to what has happened to your neck. And again, within 3 visits, my lower back pain was gone. I had 6 months of this. It didn't make sense. Now, I was going in to do a grant for cellular molecular microbial biology, and I had already filled up the grant. I was ready to go. I mean, we had signed, sealed, and delivered with an immunology teacher who was absolutely beyond the moon, super smart, incredible man. And I probably would have made history under his tutelage, but decided I'm going to become a chiropractor. And I remember walking in, asking him for a letter of reference. He ripped up my application and he threw it in the garbage right in front of me. And he turned around and he said, I will have no nonsense of you throwing away your life. And I stood there, and it was my moment to reflect. Am I really throwing away my life, or will I change thousands of people's lives like I would in cellular molecular microbial biology? But this was real. This was right in front of me. And I chose chiropractic. And yes, I would assume he was extraordinarily disappointed, but I went through it, and I've never for one day regretted ever becoming a chiropractor.
Very seldom do I feel like on the edge of tears with somebody's story of conquering something. And sometimes we just have to conquer somebody else's vision of us. And sometimes we just have to believe and trust the process, because that's so many times what we have to do. And chiropractic sounds like it's been an important part of um, all aspects of your life since then. Um, and I know that there's some things that people like to talk about, like quality of life and these like health markers of activities of daily living. But that stuff's important. And what you found throughout trusting chiropractic is those things improved. And I think they are good markers to tell somebody that, you know, chiropractic is safe, affordable, and effective. And the chiropractic profession gives people, I always like to tell people things in kind of like reflex statements, but it gives you years to your life and adds life to your years. And there's so much power in those reflexive statements because it's what it did for you. And now you're going on to help with this foundation um, for chiropractic progress, which I think we should talk more about that and let people know about what that organization is doing. And then we can feature in what I mentioned at the intro of the interview today, this Chirothon that you have down at the National in August.
Outstanding. Foundation for Chiropractic Progress was really born. It came to me. I believe very strongly that if you keep your heart and your mind open, wonderful things will come. I love being in practice. I love healing patients. But the one thing that kept me back is this is a one at a time moment. And that's okay. And it's a great thing. But how do we get more people to see the beauty of what we do? How do we help millions of lives? And when the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress, at the time, the executive director and some of the staff had asked me to volunteer, there was a glee for me on this is exactly where I need to be. And the more I volunteered, the more I got passionate about what this really is and how it really does impact the world. And the foundation's primary purpose is to showcase the benefits of chiropractic care in every walk, whether it's healthcare providers, a prospective patient, a career in chiropractic, or to really look at developing relationships with legislation and advocacy work that we help as much as we can deliver the research in a easy digestible way so that politicians can look and see how is it safe, what is the return on investment, how are they effective, do the patients feel satisfied? And that whole foundation's program and mission statement is exactly what every chiropractor does when they wake up in the morning. They should and hopefully will continue to find the passion to sit with a patient and explain it. Because if that chiropractor didn't explain what he's about to do to me, if he hadn't taken the time to show me that x-ray, I would never be here today. And my life would be totally upside down. I'm not sure my life would have been worth living at that level of discomfort at that young age, because at the end of the day, faith, hope, and love is what brings us all together. Faith that I will actually get better, hope that I can have my quality of life back, and love that I'm able to do the habitual things that I was used to doing. So the foundation met all of the things that really resonated with me, and it is an amazing moment to meet chiropractors. I've now met thousands and thousands of chiropractors from around the world, and we share a common bond. We know what we do with our hands, and we feel with our hearts. And that is a message that cannot be lost ever. And the last 126 years have been good, but the next 126 years are going to be absolutely fantastic because now we're together. Now we're stronger and we're better.
Yes, I think that there's a lot that I could unpack there. But I think that we should lead into this virtual and in-person event that you guys have going on. And then I'll get more into the question set with you.
Perfect. Well, we have, for the first time in history, 3 of our fabulous publishers, Chiro Economics, Dynamic Chiropractic, and the American Chiropractor coming together to help us broadcast live at the Florida National. If you've never been to the National in Orlando, I absolutely hope you make the patronage. For me, it is a place where thousands and thousands gather. It is an epic event. So we chose the National to have our first Chirothon 2022. And you're going to ask, what is a Chirothon? It is a celebration, and it brings every single chiropractor to the table. We want to celebrate the profession because we've come a long way and we are resilient. We've taken on a lot in a little bit of time. 126 years is not a lot of time. And we've made it through some very, very tragic moments that have happened in our lives. The second part of this is we need to elevate the education. So we invite your friends, your family, your loved ones, your chiropractic staff to come. If we come together for a solid purpose and we elevate the education of the people that we love and adore and the patients that want to come and learn more about chiropractic, the entire weekend is going to be about that. And we're going to support the profession. And the foundation is going to be making 4 30-second commercials that talk about the life journey of a chiropractic patient, whether they need care as a pregnancy, all the way through to a pediatric patient, to an adolescent, to a parent, or an aging elder. All of these pieces we know we work on a daily. This event gets kicked off on Thursday, August 25th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you can't be there live, we've got you. We're going to be streaming on multiple channels. And if there's a channel that you want to be part of and you want to stream it on yours, we would love you to do it, because the more people that stream, the better we're going to get this information out. And so we're going to have fabulous guests. We're going to have the man who wrote Chicken Soup for the Chiropractic Soul. Touching, endearing, and beautiful. Then we're going to move to some fun. We're going to laugh. We're going to enlighten our lives with some just good old-fashioned giggles. And that is a very well sought after Las Vegas comedian, Marvin Lee. And you can see his accolades are outstanding. He's been on TV shows. He's been around Las Vegas. He's a fabulous comedian. And we're going to end with a man, an advocate, a recipient of a Medal of Honor, and someone who really has had the most impactful moment as a patient on death row, coming into gears with chiropractic, Mr. Shiloh Harris. If you've not ever heard him, he is one of the greatest human beings I've met, and I'm deeply touched by his story. And I know if you bring your friends and family, they too will be deeply touched. The whole purpose is to do a service to the world. And with Chirothon, it kicks it off that Thursday night. We're going to have raffle on Sunday, and 2 to 3 times a day, both Friday, Saturday, and once on Sunday, we're going to have these 30-minute vignettes where a patient can come in anytime during those vignettes being put on and actually learn more about the chiropractic profession. And the chiropractors can learn more about what's really going on, because a lot of you are deeply embedded in your clinics, and I love you for that. But you need to have that moment where you just open up and see. We're going to have what's happening, the latest, greatest in the research department, and make it easy for consumers to listen to. But I bet you there's things that you can learn that your consumers are going to learn too, that will just make you smile and happy and really feel proud that you're a chiropractor. So Chirothon, August 25th. Through the 28th, you're welcome. You'll be able to go to f4cp.com/Chirothon. You can sign up, get your virtual ticket, get your live ticket, and it will be an epic event that has never been done before, and we look forward for you being historic with us.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, Life Chiropractic College West. Let's hustle. That's super cool. I had no idea that you guys were up to that. that. So thanks for sharing that to our audience today. I'm going to go back to you a little bit now. One of the core statements, I don't know if you ever knew this about me, but I went out and I did 600 chiropractic screenings in 2.5 years. And I learned something from a guy named Barry Anderson, and he always would tell people, if we don't tell you the truth about chiropractic, someone else will close you for drugs or surgery. And that's something I would tell people, regularly. Like, it's my duty to tell you the truth about chiropractic. Otherwise, you're going to get misled by somebody that's selling you the other stuff. And that seems to be like your origin story. Like, you were the person that there wasn't an advocate out there to tell you until that guy in your class gave you the card. And I think that that's a really powerful, like, anchor moment for you. And I think that that's a part where people are going to start to understand through the education model that you guys are rolling out, that you're bringing fun to it, that you're bringing a sentiment to it, and you're bringing knowledge to it, which I think are really important things. Is people learn more when they're having fun, and people will do more for a game than they will for work. So if we can start to compel people to understand that they should have fun in all things that they do, but the environment matters. And here's just another little segue is we created a film back in 2019 called Project Patient, and it features Staff Sergeant Shiloh Harris. And I've gotten to know Shiloh over the past 4 years, and I really admire his story and his message. And I think he's going to bring a great deal of knowledge and a great deal of heart and a great deal of surrender and win to the people that are attending your events. So great job on the talent that you're getting. And yeah, is it Hansen, the guy with Chicken Soup for the Soul?
That's very good. Mark Victor Hansen. And he brought the book together with his partner, Jack Canfield, and they are dynamo. But the weekend is packed full of guests, celebrities, people that you're going to want to hear from, people that are motivated, and just amazing people. During the first night, though, on Thursday night, we have a special guest, and it is a wow moment. So I don't want anyone out there to miss this event.
Well, it's really cool that we could feature that during your interview today. I am most interested to ask you this question about the future of chiropractic. You said the last 126 years and now the next 126 years. What do you see happening in the next decade? That's what I'm curious about.
Well, there is one of my favorites, Albert Einstein. And I believe that chiropractic has had its seed planted and it started to grow. But one of the biggest problems we have is we haven't been able to really explain it in a way that consumers really get it. So Albert Einstein has a famous saying, if you can't explain it simply, you just don't understand it well enough. And the consumer has to hear a very simple, easy, absorbing message that gets them where they need to go. I was very, very fortunate to get just the card slid across the table and just, what do you have to lose moment. But the current consumer, the CDC came out last week with an astronomically devastating and tragic number. When I started at the foundation, we were losing 70 people a day with opioid misuse, abuse, and use. The CDC now came out with a historic level of loss of life. Last week, 187 deaths per day. And that is so sad. And what we do need to really get down to the cause. Why? Like you started today, James, with the why. As a profession, we need to ask, why are they taking opiates? And it's not an easy answer. And mental health will be part of the panel at the National FCA is talking about mental health in our community. We've been socially isolated during the pandemic. We have had an overdose. We've had illegal drugs flooding our borders like fentanyl. And we need to really figure out how we can connect with our community. When you ask what the next 10 years is, it's exactly this. We need to explain it simply because we do understand it well enough. The patients need to understand it simply.
Well, I think, Dr. McAllister, I think that people did understand it well enough until there was a huge collusion to eliminate and destroy the chiropractic profession. And one of my good friends, Roberto Monaco, would always tell me is if we don't tell our story, someone will make one up about us. And I think that there wasn't a lack of knowledge of what chiropractic was. There's just a misuse and mistreatment of the profession by people that did not want to see chiropractic to thrive and succeed. And we're still dealing with the scar tissue and the burns that were left on the profession from 60 years ago. And I think that that's the bigger talking point is how can we rebrand and get cultural authority back? And how can we rebrand and resave the message of the truth of the profession? And I think that's a bigger talking point to me is how can we reframe the narrative that never went away but was misconstrued under someone else's agenda? Because chiropractic's been the same since day one. I think it's just been the public perception, and as you know, there's a negative brand equity around the messaging and the ideas of what chiropractic does. So I think you're on the right path. I think you're seriously on the right path to take the message, reframe it, rebrand it for a new culture that everybody's doing this. They're all scrolling, they're all doing this, and they need the content more readily available to them to where they can see a stronger message and a stronger brand around the truth of this profession.
You said some magic words: contain and eliminate. And it brings me to just jumping to what does the next 10 years look like? You're right. We rebrand. And in September 15th, I want your audience to mark that. That's our chiropractic birthday. And our consumers do not know where we have been. They do not know anything about our resilience to stick in there and tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and how we've been malaligned. So it is a rebranding moment. If you will join and you will be an action-oriented audience for Chiro Hustle, and you will do one thing that will make the profession flourish for the next 10 years. And we have a legendary speaker in Adjusted Reality podcast, Dr. Lou Sportelli. We want to get the largest record-breaking podcast moment out there for the world. If you will share that podcast on the birthday of chiropractic with everyone. If we all come together and we all share the truth, the whole truth, who sore throat is, what did the AMA really do? Why did they do it? Consumers need to know, and they don't know why we were called quacks. They don't even know how deep the conspiracy was and how so many celebrities were malaligned. When you look at Jack LaLanne, I mean, he's an epic celebrity, and he could never tell the truth that he was a chiropractor because he'd be kicked out of Hollywood. And then you have Ann Landers, someone who knew what was going on, and she slandered us. You had Elizabeth Taylor. Trust me, if you take this one podcast and you share it with the world, we'll be bigger than any podcast group out there, because the truth will finally come out after 127 years. It'll be on Adjusted Reality podcast. It will be with the legendary Dr. Lou Sportelli. He will go over the past. He will go through the present on where chiropractic is and how it's making its mark with research and collaborative care, and how we're in universities and Ivy League schools and we're making a difference. But he will take it to the future. Trust me, my friends. If you share this with your family, your friends, your loved ones, your community, your patients, we're going to make a mark like never before. And that is the hustle on Chiro Hustle.
Well, I think that there's so much value today. And I know that that's kind of an overused sentiment with podcasters and with storytellers, but value is, I would always tell people this, that the person with the greatest story in the room was the most valuable person, the richest person in the room. It wasn't the person with the most things. And I know that we talked about that before we went live today, is that be a person of less things, but have a truth inside of you. And I think that that's something that's really special about chiropractic and why I've been doing what I've been doing for the past 13 years and some facets supporting this profession. I know we're getting close to the edge of our time together, but I do want to ask you one last question. And that is, tell us a miracle story to close out today for our audience, because I think that that's a really powerful thing for people to re-anchor with and to close out our show with.
This was a patient who was working as in the law enforcement, and they came to me with the strain that they thought they got at the gym. And after examining the patient, I said, "How long have you been feeling this bump under your arm?" And she's, "Bump under my arm? No, that I just strained it." I said, "Well, I think we need to investigate this a little further." As we were going through our chiropractic analysis together, I called the physician ahead of time and I said, "I'd like you to be careful with the examination, because I do want to point out that there is a significant lymph node that is swollen under this patient's arm." And when the patient came back to me, they said the doctor didn't take off the gloves, they never felt the lump, and they didn't put my hand above my head like you did. They didn't move my arm around like you did, and they said there's no lump there. And I said, "Okay." I said, "Do you have another physician that you trust?" And she said, "Well, my OBGYN." I said, "Well, let's call them and let's ask for an secondary evaluation." Sure enough, she was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. The truth of the story is this: when she was diagnosed, because it was not picked up and the first physician did not want to escalate the testing for screening for what could be going on, the patient became pregnant in the middle of this. She then was told, going through the cancer treatment, that it was probably best if she aborted the baby. So the patient came back to me with tears in her eyes, and we come from the same church. And she asked me what I would do. And I said, "I cannot answer that with any good knowledge or ability to do that type of thing." I said, "What I can do is I can pray with you about what your options are and how you choose to handle the situation." And that's what we did. The miracle story is, not only is she 100% cancer free, she came in and has been the light of my life with her little boy that she delivered shortly after therapy was done, 100% healthy, and a top-ranking regional mixed martial artist. And so it's a full story of a miracle of taking the time with your patient and loving your patient, because they need you. And that story really humbled me, because I can't play any greater role than to support a patient, diagnose a patient to get the treatment that they need, and hope that their families will grow healthy, strong, and capable. And that's where they lose some faith with other physicians, because they don't touch the patient. They don't know what's going on, and they have no connection. And that's what chiropractic is so beautiful about. The miracle of what we do: we touch our patients and we really care what they say.
Well, I've always known that the chiropractic profession is give, love, serve. And I think it's really beautiful. I want to thank you so much for being my guest today on episode 415 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Well, you didn't ask me one thing that I think I would love to share with your audience.
Perfect.
And that is, you asked me, who would I love to sit down with? And I will tell you, as I gave a quote earlier, it's Albert Einstein. And the one thing that keeps me going is his famous quote: "Life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving." And that, my friends, is what Chiro Hustle is all about. He is moving and he is grooving. And I can't thank you enough for doing what you do, because you make a difference every day.
Well, I'm thankful for the acknowledgement. I wouldn't do anything else, and I've created a little dream job for myself, so I get to do what I do. and I really enjoy what we do. So thank you for the acknowledgement. And I like Albert Einstein too. I think he made a profound impact on humanity. And so assets, where can we send people? Once again, can you tell them the web address where they can come on and stream and where they can see this event on the weekend of September 15th through 18th?
Absolutely. Our website is f4cp.org. You can find us on Facebook at the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress. You'll be able to see the live stream there. And if you want to learn more about where the link is going to be and how you can register, it is f4cp.org/Chirothon, and you'll be able to sign up right there to get your complimentary ticket to join the fun and bring as many people as you want. If you're coming live, you're going to need a ticket, so make sure you register for that ticket so you can show it at the door. If you're coming virtually, pop some popcorn. Let's have some fun.
Awesome, Sherry. Well, you've been a great guest today. I want you to have a beautiful evening out there in California. And I'm closing out here today by telling you guys you're just one story away. Keep hustling. And I'll see you on the next show. Have a good night. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.